Welcome to the NLP UK Training podcast. I'm Callie Fraser.
And I'm Steve Kay.
And today we want to talk about personal responsibility. So what's that all about, Steve?
Well, we've mentioned in the last few podcasts about, if you've been listening, watching, we've talked about personal responsibility and when everything around you is going a little bit shitty, and you don't feel you've got an influence and you don't do anything about it. When you come back to it and ask yourself about a question, how can I improve this situation? You're beginning to take, well, you're not beginning, but you are taking a huge amount of personal responsibility. So what we're going to do today is show you a little model that we use called above the line, below the line, about taking more personal responsibility. Now, because a lot of people, we're not going to show you a visual of this, but you can draw it out yourselves. But this is one way of knowing whether you are taking personal responsibility. Let me ask you a question, Kelly. When you feel you're taking personal responsibility, how do you feel?
I feel really positive. I feel like I can do whatever it is that I set my mind to and really empowered and energized.
It's like the Americans will call it personal power, wouldn't they? Yeah. How are you taking personal power? And this is absolutely the opposite of blaming other people, using excuses. Oh, purchasing didn't send the orders through on time, so we've not got this, not got these components. How often do you hear that? Blah, 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 blah in organizations. This is all about taking responsibility for yourself and what you do, and also not blaming other people. But, you know, the Americans call this the locus of control, which I kind of quite get, but not necessarily term. But locus of control means that everything, you're taking charge of everything within you rather than letting it come from outside.
But it's easier to blame other people, Steve. It's your fault. It's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah, of course it is. So all you need for this exercise is to get a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper and draw a line across the piece of paper, like horizontal line. And above that line, we want you to write ownership. And underneath the word ownership, write accountability. And underneath that word, write responsibility. So you've got ownership, accountability, and responsibility, which the first three letters say or. And then you've got your line. And below the line, we've got blame, excuses, so blame first, B-L-A-M-E, then excuses underneath that, and to make it for the first three letters say bed, we're going to have denial, not that river in Egypt, but denial. So at the top, above the line, we've got ownership, responsibility, and accountability. Then we've got ownership, accountability, responsibility.
That's the one.
So it spells all. And below the line, we've got blame, excuses, and denial. So if you're above the line, oh, by the way, you can't be like in between. It's either you're either in it, you're either above it, or you're below it. You're not kind of in between, fluctuating. So how are you when you're above the line, Kelly?
Really positive. I feel really good. I'm doing the things that I want to do. Feel completely empowered, really positive.
So this morning you were driving here, the weather was awful. Or what was going through your mind?
It was fun. I was listening to my music in the car. I'd left a little bit earlier because when I woke up this morning. Because you're taking
responsibility.
Yeah. So I wanted to be here on time. Opened the curtains this morning, pouring with rain. Thought, traffic's going to be a bit gnarly. Leave a little bit extra time.
Yeah.
So popped History on the radio. I listened to some great tunes on the way here. And I just enjoyed my drive, had my cup of coffee in the car as well. Feeling good.
So if you left 15 minutes later and you got stuck in traffic, how would you feel?
Oh, I'd have that kind of little panicky feeling in my tummy going, oh my God, I'm going to be late. I'm going to be late. It's this traffic. This traffic, this is why I'm going to be late.
And so what would you say to yourself? Next time, I'm going to make sure I leave 15 minutes earlier.
Absolutely.
Back to taking charge, back to being above the line. So have you ever been below the line?
Yes.
Not very often, surely.
Not anymore.
Not
I think before I started my NLP and coaching journey, I spent a lot more time below the line. And that was when I was kind of felt stuck. So when I wasn't taking that personal responsibility and I was blaming other people, making excuses for myself, I stayed where I was for a very long time. And it felt like I had no control. It felt like that I was at the mercy of what was going on around
External
me.
events.
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't feel nice.
Yeah, I think I can remember that a long, long time ago. I remember in my first or second job, and I think interest rates went up and petrol was going higher, and it was like, what can I do about it? Nothing. And looking back, I was definitely below the line, thinking, well, what can I do about it? Well, you could apply for a better paid job, Steve, or you could do some work outside your job, Steve. So I think whenever I was below the line, I'd feel like it wasn't my fault. It was something that was being done to me. I was like a victim of circumstance. I was like at the mercy of other things and I couldn't do anything about it. And so I felt pretty negative, but I have to say it's a long time since I felt like that. So when you're below the line, you're going to feel like negative emotions, aren't you?
Oh, definitely.
So it's a bit of a clue. So if you're feeling negative emotions, you're blaming other people, you're feeling like a bit of, bit of mercy of circumstances, and it's not your fault, then you're below the line and you want to get up above the line. So how do we do that?
Just ask yourself, am I above the line about this? And it's amazing what that really simple question can do, because it instantly, you've got to think about what you need to do and how you need to think to get above there.
And you do that with coaching clients, don't you?
Absolutely.
When they're kind of being a bit negative
Yeah.
and like, oh, I can't do anything about that, because what do you say to them?
Are you above the line about this?
Why don't you say, are you below the line?
Because then you've got to think about all of your excuses, all of the things that you're blaming.
And they could push back as well,
Yeah.
couldn't they? Whereas if you say, are you above the line about this? And they'll go, only if they know what above the line, below the line is. You have to tell them that first, by the way. I found that why I heard from one manager came on one of our leadership programs. We talked this, and he deliberately didn't go and lecture everybody about above the line, below the line. He didn't put posters up on the wall. What he did was something happened, and he said, oh, well, the suppliers haven't sent us that, and there's not much we can do about that. And he said, oh, I'm being below the line. And his colleagues looked at him and said, what are you on about, John? Oh, below the line, I'm being below the line. What's that? So he's inviting them to ask questions that when he said, I'm below the line, rather than saying, right, we're having a team briefing. Today we're going to talk about above the line, below the line. Here's a nice graphic we've done for you. And, it's the first bit's or, and the second bit's bed, and have somebody rowing a boat and somebody lying in bed. He didn't do that. He just said, I'm a bit below the line. And they go like, what? What's that? Oh, when I'm blaming other people or other things. Oh, right. He said, yeah, let me tell you about it. And that worked really, really well, because he was showing he was human and he could fall into it. And he was inviting them to be curious, which meant that they were taking responsibility for learning about it themselves, which is a really good tip, by the way. I think if you're above the line, or in NLP, they call it in the cause box as opposed to being in the effects box. So you're causing things to happen rather than being an effect about it. But it's a very powerful, is not the right word, but it's a very strong position to be in life and with everything. Because if you've got a venture you want to do, whether it be a run or whether it be a charity event outside work or something inside work, a project, if you're above the line, well, there's no stopping you, is there, really? Because they can throw anything at you.
Yeah.
It's just going to bounce off, because you're just going to say, how can I improve the situation? It'd be good if they could teach above the line, below the line at school, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Because I haven't done my homework, miss, because the dog ate it.
That's definitely below the line, isn't it?
It is below the line. We haven't got internet.
This is something that I found really useful for those of you that don't know me as well as Steve does, and a lot of our delegates do. I've got an autoimmune condition. I've got something called psoriatic arthritis. And when I met Steve and started my courses, I was quite poorly with it. And I can remember being very below the line when I got the diagnosis because it was completely out of my control.
It was a big life-changing
Yeah.
thing, wasn't it? Because you used to run a dance company.
Absolutely. It was
5 nights a week.
I had to change my business. I couldn't do what I loved anymore. So it kind of did feel like this was something that was happening to me. And I did kind of blame the condition for how I was feeling. Oh, no wonder I'm feeling down. It's because I've got this diagnosis. But one of the things that I've kind of realized over the years is that the diagnosis is the diagnosis. I've got a condition. There's nothing that I can do about that. But how I experience it is up to me. So when I'm above the line, I can still be in pain with it. That's not going to change. But I can do more things to help myself. So one of the things that I started to do when I learned about being above the line was thinking, well, if I was really taking responsibility for my own health, what would I do differently? What can I do? And again, sometimes it was only something very small. But a really weird thing happened. Once I started to do those small things, I felt differently.
That's like back to the other podcast we did about changing by 1 degree.
Yeah.
And I tell you, this morning I drove in and I went on a dual carriageway and there's big lay-bys and they were full of litter, full of litter. So somebody's just opened the car truck window and just thrown it out by the side of the road. You particularly notice on slip roads. But you know, last Sunday I was out and there were people actually on a Sunday morning going with litter picking in Ashby with the big bags, and then they tie them up, leave them at the side of the verge, and then someone comes along and picks them up. And they've given their time to do that. Isn't that wonderful?
But again, it's that little bit of personal responsibility. If you want to live in a nice environment, you got to do something about it.
I once saw, this was a long time ago, I once saw these two guys in a van parked on the main street outside where a chip shop was. And they ate the fish and chips in the van, wound down the window and chucked the empty wrappers out on the pavement. I mean, you know, in full view of everybody, not even sneakily chucking it out the window. And those people work for our organisations. It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah. But it happens.
So it all starts with us, really, doesn't it? It all starts with us and about us being above the line. And this works at home as well, too. So, you know, if there's kids' toys all over the lounge floor, you know, take responsibility, pick them up, put them away, tidy up.
And this stuff isn't rocket science. This is something that we say so often. This is common sense. But the problem is that we don't do this stuff on a day-to-day basis. So if more of us were to do this every single day, society would be so different. Just think how many clean grass verges there would be when you went up and down the motorways on a Monday morning. So just do one thing today. Ask yourself that question. Am I above the line today?
If there's one thing I could teach people, if someone said, right, you've got an opportunity to teach one thing on a course or on a podcast or on a video, there's one thing you teach people, that there's one like little model to teach people above anything else, I think it'd be above the line, below the line for me.
It kind of underpins so many things.
It does. It does. It underpins everything. So remember, draw a line horizontally. Above the line, we write ownership. Underneath ownership, we write accountability, then responsibility, then you've got your line. And then underneath that, we've got blame, excuses, and denial. I think denial was put in because it spelled bad, didn't it?
It did, yeah, absolutely. So I kind of think about when I'm above the line, I'm kind of rowing my own boat. You know, I'm the master of my universe, master of my own destiny.
Steady.
But when I'm below the line, that's kind of feeling where you just want to pull the duvet over your head. and hide from the world. And that's fine now and again. We all slip below the line. There's always going to be that day where you just think, I just don't want to do it today. But then the next day, get out of bed, put your big girl pants on and be above the line, take that personal responsibility.
So that's it for this one.
Absolutely. And we'll see you next time on the NLP UK podcast. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. See you soon.